Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Introduction. Imagine you're in a cold, dark prison cell. Solitary confinement. The days blur into one another, a gray, formless agony. There are no books, no tools, no one to talk to. For most people, this is a vision of hell, a place where the mind begins to eat itself. Yet, in a Hungarian prison during one of its most repressive regimes, a poet named Tolás Tibor and his fellow inmates, intellectuals locked away for their beliefs, found a way to cheat chaos. They decided to hold a poetry translation contest. Think about that for a moment. With no paper, no pens, they had to devise a system. First, they spent months secretly passing messages from cell to cell just to agree on which poem to translate. They settled on Walt Whitman's "O Captain, My Captain," because it was one of the few poems most of them could recall from memory. Then the real work began. With nothing to write on, Tibor would spread a thin film of soap on the sole of his shoe and carve the letters of his translation into it with a toothpick. Once he memorized a line, he'd wipe the soap clean and start again. As different versions of the poem took shape, they were memorized and passed down the line, cell by cell, until every inmate had evaluated them and cast a vote. This simple, self-made game became their salvation. It was more than a distraction, it was a lifeline. It gave them a clear goal, a set of rules, and a challenge that demanded their complete focus. In that dark place, they had created a private world of order, meaning, and even joy. What they discovered in that prison is the very same secret a surgeon feels when an operation becomes a perfect ballet of motion, the same secret a rock climber knows when the world fades away and all that exists is the next handhold on the rock face. It's a state of being that was given a name by the man who dedicated his life to studying it, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He called it flow. His book, Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, isn't just a book, it's a map. It's a guide to understanding those rare, perfect moments in life when you feel completely alive, totally absorbed, and performing at your absolute best. It became a national bestseller and has influenced leaders, artists, and thinkers around the world for a simple reason: it answers the most important question we can ask. How do we find lasting happiness and meaning in a world that so often feels chaotic and out of our control? By the end of our journey today, you will not only understand what flow is, but you will hold the key to unlocking it in your own life, in your studies, in your work, and even in the most mundane, everyday moments. This isn't about finding a fleeting sense of pleasure. This is about discovering a deep, lasting enjoyment that comes from growth, challenge, and the full engagement of your mind and body. This is the secret to a life well lived. Book summary. 2,300 years ago, Aristotle came to a simple conclusion: more than anything else, what men and women seek is happiness. We chase after money, health, power, and beauty, not for their own sake, but because we believe they will make us happy. And yet, here we are, centuries later, surrounded by luxuries and technologies that would have seemed like magic to a Roman emperor. And are we any happier? The evidence suggests, not really. We are healthier and live longer, but so many of us feel that our lives are spent in a state of quiet anxiety and boredom. So, what went wrong? Are we doomed to always want more than we can have? Or have we been looking for happiness in all the wrong places? This is the question that drove a young psychologist named Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He noticed something fascinating. He interviewed hundreds of experts, artists, athletes, musicians, chess masters, and surgeons, people who spent their time doing activities they loved, often for little money or fame. And he found that when they described the moments they felt their absolute best, they all said something remarkably similar. A composer described losing himself in his music. A chess master talked about the world disappearing during a tough match. A rock climber spoke of feeling a sense of Zen-like, egoless grace on the mountain. They described a state of being so involved in an activity that nothing else seemed to matter. The experience itself was so enjoyable that they would do it even at great cost, for the sheer sake of doing it. Csikszentmihalyi gave this state a name, a word his interviewees often used themselves. They said it felt like being carried by a current, like floating. He called it flow. What he had discovered was that happiness is not something that just happens to you. It's not the result of good luck or random chance. It's not something money can buy or power can command. Happiness, he realized, is a condition that must be prepared for, cultivated, and defended by each person. It is the outcome of learning to control your inner experience. But to understand how to find flow, we first need to understand its opposite. Csikszentmihalyi gives this a name too: psychic entropy. It's a powerful idea. Think of entropy as the natural state of chaos. The universe itself wasn't designed for our comfort. It's random and indifferent to our needs. In the same way, the natural state of our mind, when left to its own devices, is also chaos. When you have nothing to do, where does your mind go? Does it settle into a state of peaceful bliss? Rarely. Instead, it starts to wander. It drifts toward your worries, your insecurities, your frustrations. That unfinished homework assignment. That awkward conversation. That fear about the future. This is psychic entropy. It's the baseline state of disorder that we're always trying to escape. And we have developed all sorts of strategies to do just that. We turn on the television, not because we genuinely enjoy it, but because the flickering screen gives our attention a place to rest, a temporary shield from the chaos within. We seek out passive entertainment, drugs, or any distraction that will keep our minds from turning inward and confronting that inner turmoil. These things can provide what Csikszentmihalyi calls pleasure. And pleasure is important. Eating when you're hungry, resting when you're tired, these things restore order to the body and mind. They bring us back to a state of balance. But pleasure is not the same as enjoyment. Pleasure is about satisfying a need. It's homeostatic. It doesn't lead to growth. You can experience pleasure without any effort at all. Enjoyment, on the other hand, is different. Enjoyment happens when you not only satisfy a need but go beyond what you were programmed to do. It happens when you achieve something unexpected, something you might not have even imagined before. Enjoyment is characterized by a sense of forward movement, of novelty, of accomplishment. Playing a tough game of tennis that stretches your skills is enjoyable. Reading a book that shows you the world in a new light is enjoyable. Having a conversation that leads you to ideas you didn't know you had is enjoyable. After an enjoyable event, you are different. Yourself has grown. You've become more complex. And this is the key. While pleasure helps to maintain order, enjoyment is what creates new order in your consciousness. This is the state of flow. So, what does this optimal experience of flow actually feel like? Through thousands of interviews with people from all walks of life, from elderly Korean women and Navajo shepherds to Tokyo teenagers and Chicago assembly line workers, Csikszentmihalyi found that the description of flow is remarkably universal. It has 8 major components. Let's walk through them, because understanding these is like being handed a set of keys to a happier life. The first, and perhaps most important element of flow is that it happens when you are engaged in a challenging activity that requires skill. This is the beautiful, delicate balance between boredom and anxiety. Imagine you're playing tennis. If you're playing against someone far better than you, you'll feel anxious and out of your depth. The challenge is too high for your skill level. But if you're playing against a total beginner, you'll quickly get bored. The challenge is too low. Flow happens in that narrow channel right between boredom and anxiety, where the challenge is perfectly matched to your ability. It has to be something that stretches you just a little bit, pushing you to the edge of your current skills. And this is why flow leads to growth. You can't stay in flow at the same level of complexity for long. Once you master hitting the tennis ball over the net, it becomes boring. To find flow again, you have to increase the challenge, maybe by trying to hit a topspin backhand, or by playing against a slightly better opponent. This constant need to increase challenge to stay in flow is what pushes us to grow, to learn, and to become more complex. The second element is the merging of action and awareness. This is that magical feeling of being in the zone. When you're in a state of flow, your concentration is so complete that you stop being aware of yourself as separate from what you are doing. You and the activity become one. A dancer described it like this: your concentration is very complete. Your mind isn't wandering. You are totally involved in what you are doing. You feel relaxed, comfortable, and energetic. A rock climber said, "You are so involved in what you are doing that you aren't thinking of yourself as separate from the immediate activity." The action becomes spontaneous, almost automatic. You're not second-guessing yourself or wondering, "Should I be doing this?" You are simply doing it. The action carries you forward as if by magic. Third and fourth, flow experiences have clear goals and provide immediate feedback. This is why games are such a natural source of flow. In tennis, you always know what you need to do: get the ball over the net and inside the lines. And with every single shot, you get immediate feedback. It was in, it was out, it was good, it was bad. This constant stream of information tells you how well you're doing and allows you to adjust your performance from moment to moment. This doesn't just apply to games. A surgeon knows the goal of an operation is to remove a tumor or repair an organ. The feedback is constant. As long as there's no bleeding, things are going well. Even a gardener gets feedback from seeing her plants grow day by day. When you have clear goals and immediate feedback, your mind doesn't have to wonder what to do next or how you're doing. The activity itself provides the structure, and that allows your consciousness to become completely ordered and focused. This leads directly to the fifth element: deep concentration on the task at hand. When you're in flow, you are so focused that you are able to forget all the unpleasant things in life. There's simply no room in your mind for anything else. A basketball player put it perfectly: you can think about a problem all day, but as soon as you get in the game, the hell with it. When you are playing basketball, that's all there is on your mind? Just basketball. This is one of the great gifts of flow. It acts as a temporary escape from psychic entropy. For a little while, the worries and frustrations of everyday life are held in abeyance. It's not that you're avoiding them, it's that your attention is so fully occupied by the challenge in front of you that they can't get in. The sixth element is what Csikszentmihalyi calls the paradox of control. People in flow consistently report a powerful sense of control over their actions. But here's the paradox: this feeling often occurs in situations that are quite risky or uncertain. A rock climber on a sheer cliff face, a sailor navigating a storm, a surgeon performing a delicate procedure, these are not safe activities. So what does this feeling of control really mean? It's not about being guaranteed a perfect outcome. It's about knowing that your skills are so well honed that you are capable of handling whatever the situation throws at you. Rock climbers, for example, make a distinction between objective dangers, like a sudden rockfall or a storm, which are unpredictable, and subjective dangers, which arise from a lack of skill. The entire point of climbing is to minimize objective dangers and completely eliminate subjective ones through training and preparation. So, the joy comes not from the danger itself, but from the ability to control a potentially chaotic situation. You don't feel a sense of control unless a doubtful outcome is at stake. and you are able to influence that outcome. Seventh is the loss of self-consciousness. When you are deeply absorbed in an activity, that little voice in your head that's always judging, worrying, and questioning, it goes quiet. You stop thinking about how you look, what others think of you, or whether you're doing things right. The ego disappears. Here, we find another beautiful paradox. In losing yourself, you actually emerge stronger. While you're in flow, you're not reflecting on what the experience means for yourself. But afterward, when the activity is over and self-consciousness returns, the self you reflect on is not the same one as before. It is now a self that is enriched by new skills and fresh achievements. You look back in awe at what you were able to do. You've pushed your boundaries, and in doing so, you've expanded your own concept of who you are and what you're capable of. So, occasionally letting go of the self is necessary for building a stronger self. Finally, the eighth element is the transformation of time. This is something almost everyone who has been in flow reports. Time seems to bend. Most often, hours pass by in what feel like minutes. You get started on a project, become completely absorbed, and the next time you look up, the sun is setting. But sometimes, the reverse happens. A ballet dancer might describe a difficult turn that takes less than a second in real time, but feels like it stretches out for minutes, giving her ample time to make tiny adjustments. Either way, when you're in flow, you are not bound by the tick-tock of the clock. You are living in a rhythm dictated by the activity itself. When all these elements are present, the result is what Csikszentmihalyi calls an autotelic experience. The word autotelic comes from two Greek words, auto, meaning self, and telos, meaning goal. An autotelic activity is one that is its own reward. You do it not for some future benefit, not for money or fame, but simply because the doing itself is the reward. This is the very essence of intrinsic motivation. And when you can find this feeling, life is no longer held hostage to some hypothetical future gain. The present moment becomes justified in and of itself. So, how do we find more of this in our lives? Csikszentmihalyi shows us that we can find it everywhere, if we just know how to look. Let's start with the most obvious instrument we have, our body. The body is an incredible source of potential enjoyment, yet so many of us leave its capabilities unexplored. We can learn to find flow through physical skills, what the book calls the body in flow. Think of something as simple as walking. For many, it's just a way to get from one place to another. But you can transform it into a flow activity. You can set goals, to walk a certain distance, to find a new route, to maintain a certain pace. You can introduce challenges, walking on a mountain trail where every step requires a complex, intuitive calculation of balance and friction. You can focus your attention on the rhythm of your breathing, on the sights and sounds of the city, on the way the light hits the buildings. By setting goals and developing skills, even the most trivial physical act can become deeply enjoyable. The same principle applies to everything the body can do. In sports, the goal is clear: to go higher, faster, stronger. In dance, it's to express yourself through harmonious movement, to feel your body become one with the music. Even sex, which is a source of basic pleasure for almost everyone, can be transformed into a deeply complex and enjoyable flow activity. When you move beyond the purely physical and add the challenges of romance, the wooing, the sharing of feelings, it becomes more complex. And when you add a third dimension of genuine care for your partner, the challenge of truly understanding them, helping them grow, and discovering new things together, sexuality becomes a process that can provide flow experiences for a lifetime. To keep love fresh, the relationship must become more complex. But beyond the senses, some of the most profound flow experiences are generated entirely inside the mind. This is the flow of thought. The normal state of the mind, as we've seen, is chaos. But we can create order through mental disciplines. The most ancient of these is the cultivation of memory. Before writing, memory was the storehouse of culture. It held the songs, the laws, the histories of a people. Remembering is enjoyable because it fulfills a goal and brings order to consciousness. A person whose memory is stocked with patterns of information, poems, stories, historical facts, scientific formulas, is never truly bored. They carry a self-contained world within their mind, and can create order and find meaning wherever they are. From memory, we move to the play of words. Conversation, when done well, is not just about exchanging information, it's an art form. It's the Garden of Eden, as one caliph called it. And writing, whether it's journaling or composing poetry, is a powerful tool for creating order out of the randomness of our experience. When you write, you are not just recording thoughts, you are creating them. And then there are the great symbolic systems that culture has given us: history, science, and philosophy. Too often, we see these as boring school subjects. But when approached with curiosity, they become incredible games of the mind. An amateur historian doesn't just memorize dates, she creates a personal museum of the past, connecting her own life to the grand sweep of human events. An amateur scientist isn't trying to win a Nobel Prize, she is driven by curiosity, by the simple delight of observing the world, finding patterns, and solving puzzles. Some of the greatest scientific discoveries in history were made by amateurs, people who were simply having fun playing with ideas. And an amateur philosopher, a lover of wisdom, can use the great questions of existence to bring a profound sense of order to their own mind. The key, in every case, is to become an amateur or a dilettante in the original, beautiful sense of those words, someone who does things for the love of it, for the delight it brings. Now, this brings us to one of the most important areas of life: work. So many people see work as a curse, a necessary evil they must endure to get to their real life, their free time. But Csikszentmihalyi's research reveals a startling paradox. People report being in a state of flow far more often at work than they do in their leisure time. At work, we often have clear goals, immediate feedback, and challenges that match our skills. We feel strong, active, and concentrated. In our free time, by contrast, we often feel apathetic. With nothing structured to do, we drift. Our skills are unused, and we feel passive, dull, and dissatisfied. So here's the paradox. At work, we are often in flow, but we wish we were doing something else. In our free time, we are often apathetic, yet we wish we had more of it. Why? Because we are trapped by the cultural stereotype that work is supposed to be unpleasant, and leisure is supposed to be enjoyable. We ignore the actual evidence of our own experience. But it doesn't have to be this way. The secret is to reframe our relationship with work. Csikszentmihalyi shares incredible stories of people who found deep enjoyment in the most unlikely jobs. There's Serafina, a 76-year-old woman living in the Alps. Her days are filled with hard labor, milking cows, cleaning the house, cutting hay. But when asked what she enjoys most in life, she lists those very tasks. Everything in nature keeps you company, she says. You feel clean and happy. For her, there is no distinction between work and leisure. Her life is one seamless whole. Then there's Joe, a welder in a South Chicago railroad plant, a hot, noisy, dangerous environment. Yet Joe was known as the happiest and most essential person in the factory. Why? Because he had transformed his job into a game. He had mastered every piece of machinery, not because he had to, but because he was fascinated by it. He turned every broken machine into a puzzle to be solved. His work was a constant source of flow. And at home, he applied the same mindset, building an intricate rock garden with homemade sprinklers that created rainbows. Joe and Serafina possess what Csikszentmihalyi calls an autotelic personality, the ability to create flow experiences even in the most barren environments. They prove that the quality of your work depends more on your approach to it than on the actual conditions of the job. This leads us to the most powerful and moving part of the book. What happens when things go terribly wrong? What about when tragedy strikes? Can we find flow even in the midst of suffering? Csikszentmihalyi shares the stories of people who have faced some of the worst things imaginable. He studied paraplegics, people who had lost the use of their limbs in accidents. Incredibly, many of them described the accident that paralyzed them as both one of the most negative and one of the most positive events in their lives. How is that possible? Because the tragedy gave them a new, incredibly clear purpose. It stripped away all the trivial, inessential choices of life and presented them with a single, urgent goal: to learn to live again. Every small victory, learning to dress themselves, mastering a wheelchair, became a source of immense pride and enjoyment. The accident, a source of profound chaos, became the catalyst for creating a new and powerful inner order. He found the same pattern among people who had lost their sight. One woman said that blindness freed her from a painful family situation and made her life more purposeful than it ever would have been otherwise. She found flow in her work as a telephone operator, feeling like a god as she smoothly connected the web of human conversations. These individuals are the ultimate masters of consciousness. They have what psychologists call transformational coping skills. They take misfortune and turn it into a challenge. They have the courage to not be destroyed by chaos, but to use its energy to build a stronger, more complex self. They possess an autotelic self. This is a self that has its own self-contained goals. It's a self that isn't pushed and pulled by biological urges or social pressures. Instead, its goals emerge from within, from a conscious evaluation of its own experience. An autotelic self knows how to set its own goals, become immersed in activities, pay attention to feedback, and enjoy the immediate experience of living, no matter what the external conditions are. And this brings us to the final, and most profound, step in achieving a life of optimal experience: the making of meaning. It's one thing to have flow in separate activities, in your work, in your hobbies, with your friends. But it's another to turn your entire life into a single, unified flow experience. This happens when you find an ultimate purpose, a goal that is so challenging and compelling that it gives significance to everything else you do. It could be the pursuit of knowledge, the creation of art, the fight for justice, the raising of a family, or the search for spiritual truth. It doesn't matter what the goal is, as long as it is compelling enough to order a lifetime's worth of your energy. When you have such a life theme, all your separate actions and goals fit together. Everything you do makes sense in the context of that larger purpose. Csikszentmihalyi calls this the unification of meaning. It has 3 parts. First is purpose, knowing what your ultimate goal is. Second is resolution, the determination to pursue that goal, to translate your intent into action, even in the face of obstacles. And third is harmony, the inner peace that comes when your actions, thoughts, and feelings are all aligned with your purpose. Someone who achieves this state has truly mastered their consciousness. They don't fear the future, or even death, because every moment of their life makes sense. Every moment is part of a grand, unified flow experience. Life, by itself, has no inherent meaning. But that doesn't mean we have to accept it with resignation. The fact that we don't have wings doesn't stop us from flying. In the same way, the fact that life has no built-in meaning doesn't stop us from giving it meaning. This is the ultimate challenge for a conscious being. To find your purpose, to forge your resolve, and to create a life of harmony and meaning out of the raw, chaotic materials of existence. This is the path to optimal experience. This is the path of flow. Commentary. When you step back and look at the world we live in today, the message of flow feels more urgent than ever before. We are living in an age of unprecedented distraction. Our attention is the most valuable currency there is, and everyone, from social media companies to advertisers to news networks, is fighting for a piece of it. The result is that many of us feel like we're living in a state of constant, low-grade psychic entropy. Our minds are scattered, our focus is fragmented, and we're always looking for the next easy distraction to keep the discomfort of a chaotic mind at bay. We scroll through our phones, binge-watch shows, and wonder why, at the end of the day, we feel so drained and unfulfilled. What Csikszentmihalyi's work so brilliantly reminds us is that the most rewarding experiences in life are not the ones that are easy. They're not the ones that happen to us. They're the ones we make happen. They are the ones that demand our full attention, our skill, and our effort. The book makes a powerful case against the passive consumption of life. It's a call to become an active creator of your own experience. It tells us that enjoyment is not found in a state of blissful relaxation, but in the heat of a challenge, in the moment when your abilities are stretched to their limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. This idea is deeply empowering. It means that you don't have to wait for external conditions to be perfect to start living a better life. You don't need more money, a better job, or a different set of circumstances. The power to transform your experience lies within your own consciousness, right here, right now. So, how can you start applying this today? Here are a few simple ideas to begin your practice of flow. First, pick one routine, mundane activity that you do every day, something like washing the dishes, folding laundry, or your commute to school or work. Tonight, when you do it, treat it like a game. Set a small, specific goal. Maybe it's to wash the dishes more efficiently than ever before. Or to fold the laundry with the precision of a master craftsman. Or to notice 3 beautiful things on your commute that you've never seen before. Give that simple task your full, undivided attention. See if you can find a little pocket of order and enjoyment where there was once only boredom. Second, the next time you have a conversation with someone, a friend, a family member, practice the art of deep listening. For those few minutes, let them be the most important thing in your universe. Don't think about what you're going to say next. Don't check your phone. Just focus on understanding them. Make it your goal to see the world through their eyes. Relationships are one of the richest sources of flow, but only if we invest our attention in them. And finally, try to find just 10 minutes today to be completely alone, without any distractions. No phone, no music, no TV. Just you and your thoughts. Don't try to force your mind to be quiet. Just observe it. See where it goes when it's not being pulled by external stimuli. This can be uncomfortable at first. That's psychic entropy trying to take over. But learning to be comfortable in solitude is the first step toward learning to direct your own consciousness. That was a summary of Flow by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. We've touched on the major landmarks of this incredible book today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only ever be a map. The real treasure is found when you make the journey yourself. The true magic of a book like this happens in the quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or a simple phrase connects with your own life in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to give you a glimpse of the territory and help you decide if it's a journey worth taking. If anything we've talked about today has sparked a light in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself and the world around you. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, If you found this summary valuable and want to continue exploring the ideas in some of the most life-changing books ever written, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button. It lets me know that this work is making a difference, and ensures you won't miss our next journey into another masterpiece from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep growing, and keep flowing, together.